Hare Krishna. Welcome back to the live studios here at New Badrik Ashram, the Mile High Ashram in Denver, Colorado. Shri Shri Radha Govinda, Shri Shri Gornitai, Jagannath Baladev, Srimati Subhadra, Shri Giridhar Govardhan, and all the lovely inmates of the ashram and the community. Thank you for joining us again, and we hope you'll enjoy. Actually, just to show you how influential Badrik Ashram is, I found a mistake. One character in the translation that I had, which is, I edited this book. So somehow or other, there was from the book to this file that I read from, there was one letter difference. Didn't make any difference in the meaning, but you'll hear it. Maybe let's see if you hear it, how much you remember. Okay, Hare Krishna, welcome everyone from out there in cyberspace. We're going to read Srimad-Bhagavatam, and first we're going to read the glorification of Srimad-Bhagavatam by Srila Son-of-Drona Goswami, the senior disciple of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the person who received the most direct instruction from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu than anyone else on the planet. This is his glorification of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. It goes like this. Sarva Shastra Dipiyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja Sarva Lokaika Drik Prada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. You recognize the difference? It was light before, and it was actually sight in the book. Somehow or other, I just typo. But it's the same meaning, not change the meaning at all. The only giver of sight to all the worlds. Better, actually. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad-Bhagavata Prabho Kalidvan Dudita Ditya Shri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master, Srimad-Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshakshadayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Shri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin Madgulo Man Mahadana Manishdaragamad Bhagya Madananda Namostate. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy. I bow down to you. Asadu sadudadayin adini chochatakara hanamun chigadachin mam premnarit kantayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, we reached the 7th chapter of the first canto, Srimad-Bhagavatam. The chapter is entitled The Son of Drona, the Son of Drona Punished. So, Ashwatthama is the son of Dronacharya, and at the end of the battle of Kurukshetra, when Duryodhana was left on the battlefield, broken and dying, but still alive, Ashwatthama went to the place where the sons of Draupadi were sleeping and slaughtered them and took their heads, thinking that he had killed the Pandavas and that this would be pleasing to Duryodhana. And Duryodhana rejected him immediately and said, "This is a heinous thing that you've done." And when news came to Draupadi, she was, of course, heartbroken. But these kinds of tragedies that happen to pure devotees, eternal associates of Krishna, these are all eternal associates of Krishna. They prove the efficacy and the glory of pure devotional service and of the devotees who are on that level of pure devotional service, eternal associates of Krishna. Just how deep their love is and their commitment to Krishna is. They depend on him for everything, at all times, under all conditions. So anyway, Arjuna came back, found out what had happened, and told Draupadi, "I will find this person, and you can take your bath standing on his head." Draupadi said, "Okay." She's a Kshatriya lady. Then Arjuna got in his chariot and started chasing Ashwatthama. And when Ashwatthama saw that the end was near and there was no other alternative, he threw a Brahmastra. Brahmastra weapon is an atomic weapon that was used in those days, and it was invoked by mantra. In other words, an atomic reaction could be established through a mantra by sound. So that's where we're picking up the action. Thereupon, a glaring light spread in all directions. It was so fierce that Arjuna thought his own life in danger, and so he began to address Lord Sri Krishna. Text 22. Arjuna said, "O my Lord Krishna, O my Lord Sri Krishna, you are the Almighty Personality of Godhead. There is no limit to your different energies. Therefore, only you are competent to instill fearlessness in the hearts of your devotees. Everyone in the flames of material miseries can find the path to liberation in you only." Purport. Thank you. Don't deserve it, but I'll take it. Arjuna was aware of the transcendental qualities of Lord Sri Krishna, as he had already experienced them during the Kurukshetra war, in which both of them were present. Therefore, Arjuna's version of Lord Krishna is authoritative. Krishna is almighty, and especially the cause of fearlessness for the devotees. A devotee of the Lord is always fearless because of the protection given by the Lord. Material existence is something like a blazing fire in the forest, which can be extinguished by the mercy of the Lord, Sri Krishna. The spiritual master is the mercy representative of the Lord. Therefore, a person burning in the flames of material existence may receive the rains of mercy of the Lord through the transparent medium of the self-realized spiritual master. The spiritual master, by his words, can penetrate into the heart of the suffering person and inject knowledge transcendental, which alone can extinguish the fire of material existence. Text 23. You are the original personality of Godhead who expands himself all over the creations and is transcendental to material energy. You have cast away the effects of the material energy by dint of your spiritual potency. You are always situated in eternal bliss and transcendental knowledge. Purport. The Lord states in the Bhagavad Gita that one who surrenders unto the lotus feet of the Lord can get release from the clutches of nations. Krishna is just like the sun, and Maya, or material existence, is just like darkness. Wherever there is the light of the sun, darkness or ignorance at once vanishes. The best means to get out of the world of ignorance is suggested here. The Lord is addressed herein as the original personality of Godhead. From Him, all other personalities of Godhead expand. The all-pervasive Lord Vishnu is Lord Krishna's plenary portion or expansion. The Lord expands Himself in innumerable forms of Godhead and living beings, along with His different energies. But Sri Krishna is the original primeval Lord from whom everything emanates. The all-pervasive feature of the Lord experienced within the manifested world is also a partial representation of the Lord. Paramatma, therefore, is included within Him. He is the absolute personality of Godhead. He has nothing to do with the actions and reactions of the material manifestation because He is far above the material creation. Darkness is a perverse representation of the sun, and therefore the existence of darkness depends on the existence of the sun. But in the sun proper, there is no trace of darkness. As the sun is full of light only, similarly the absolute personality of Godhead, beyond the material existence, is full of bliss. He is not only full of bliss, but also full of transcendental variegatedness. Transcendence is not at all static, but full of dynamic variegatedness. He is distinct from the material nature, which is complicated by the three modes of material nature. He is Parama, or the chief. Therefore, He is absolute. He has manifold energies, and through His diverse energies, He creates, manifests, maintains, and destroys the material world. In His own abode, however, everything is eternal and absolute. The world is not conducted by the energies or powerful agents by themselves, but by the potent, all-powerful, with all energies. Text 24. And yet, though you are beyond the purview of the material energy, you execute the four principles of liberation characterized by religion and so on for the ultimate good of the conditioned souls. Purport. The personality of Godhead, out of His causeless mercy, descends on the manifested world without being influenced by the material modes of nature. He is eternally beyond the material manifestations. He descends out of His causeless mercy only to reclaim the fallen souls who are captivated by the illusory energy. They are attacked by the material energy and they want to enjoy her under false pretexts, although in essence the living entity is unable to enjoy. One is eternally the servitor of the Lord, and when he forgets this position, he thinks of enjoying the material world, but factually he is an illusion. The Lord descends to eradicate this false sense of enjoyment and thus reclaim conditioned souls back to Godhead. That is the all-merciful nature of the Lord for the fallen souls. So in the material world, we are thinking that we can enjoy, but we can't actually enjoy. Because enjoyment is eternal. And we can't enjoy with material energy, which is constantly changing forms. The soul is eternal, unchangeable, but the forms that surround the soul and all of the conditioned souls are always changing. And therefore, this statement is very apt and very poignant and very true, that there is actually no enjoyment in the material world. Now, a person under the illusion, under the spell of the material energy might think, well, yeah, if I can't enjoy, then what's life worth? What's the value of life? What's going on here? And Krishna is the only enjoyer. Does that mean I can't enjoy it? No. It means we can't enjoy in the material world, but we're in the spiritual world where the forms are eternal and where the supreme enjoyer is. When we serve and love him, we enjoy millions of times more than he does. Text 25. Thus you descend as an incarnation to remove the burden of the world and to benefit your friends, especially those who are your exclusive devotees and are constantly wrapped in meditation upon you. Purport. It appears that the Lord is partial to his devotees. Everyone is related with the Lord. He is equal to everyone, and yet he is more inclined to his own men and devotees. The Lord is everyone's father. No one can be his father, and yet no one can be his son. His devotees are his kinsmen, and his devotees are his relations. This is his transcendental pastime. It has nothing to do with the mundane ideas of relations, fatherhood, or anything like that. As mentioned above, the Lord is above the modes of material nature, and thus there is nothing mundane about his kinsmen and relations in devotional service. Text 26. O Lord of Lords, how is it that this dangerous effulgence is spreading all around? Where does it come from? I do not understand it. Purport. Anything that is presented before the personality of Godhead should be done so after due presentation of respectful prayers. This is the standard procedure, and Sri Arjuna, although an intimate friend of the Lord, is observing this method for general information. Sometimes we think maybe we don't have time to pray to the Lord like this, but here he is praying just as the Brahmasa is coming him away, and he's offering all these prayers before he asks what to do. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Know from me that this is the act of the Son of Drona. He has thrown the hymns of nuclear energy, Brahmastra, and he does not know how to retract the glare. He has helplessly done this, being afraid of imminent death." Purport. The Brahmastra is similar to the modern nuclear weapon manipulated by atomic energy. The atomic energy works wholly on total combustibility, and so the Brahmastra also acts. It creates an intolerable heat, similar to atomic radiation. But the difference is that the atomic bomb is a gross type of nuclear weapon, whereas the Brahmastra is a subtle type of weapon produced by chanting hymns. It is a different science, and in the days gone by such science was cultivated in the land. And in the days gone by, such science was cultivated in the land of Bharatavarsha. The subtle science of chanting hymns is also material, but it is yet to be known by the modern material scientists. Subtle material science is not spiritual, but it has a direct relationship with the spiritual method, which is still subtler. A chanter of hymns knew how to apply the weapon as well as how to retract it. That was perfect knowledge. But the son of Dronacharya, who made use of this subtle science, did not know how to retract. He applied it, being afraid of his imminent death, and thus the practice was not only improper, but also irreligious. As the son of a Brahmana, he should not have made so many mistakes, and for such gross negligence of duty, he was to be punished by the Lord himself. Text 28. O Arjuna, Only another Brahmastra can counteract this weapon. Since you are expert in the military science, subdue this weapon's glare with the power of your own weapon. Purport. For the atomic bombs, there is no counter weapon to neutralize the effects. But by subtle science, the action of a Brahmastra can be counteracted, and those who were expert in the military science in those days could counteract the Brahmastra. The son of Dronacharya did not know the art of counteracting the weapon, and therefore Arjuna was asked to counteract it by the power of his own weapon. Text 29. Sri Sutta Goswami said, hearing this from the personality of Godhead, Arjuna touched water for purification, and after circumambulating Lord Sri Krishna, he cast his Brahmastra weapon to counteract the other one. Text 30. When the rays of the two Brahmastras combined, a great circle of fire, like the disk of the sun, covered all outer space and the whole firmament of planets. Purport. The heat created by the flash of a Brahmastra resembles the fire exhibited in the sun globe at the time of cosmic annihilation. The radiation of atomic energy is very insignificant in comparison to the heat produced by Brahmastra. The atomic bomb explosion can at most blow up one globe, but the heat produced by the Brahmastra can destroy the whole cosmic situation. The comparison is therefore made to the heat at the time of annihilation. Text 31. All the population of the three worlds was scorched by the combined heat of the weapons. Everyone was reminded of the Sambartaka fire which takes place at the time of annihilation. Purport. The three worlds are the upper, lower, and intermediate planets of the universe. Although the Brahmastra was released on this earth, the heat produced by the combination of both weapons covered all the universe, and all the populations and all the different planets began to feel the heat excessively and compared it to that of the Sambartaka fire. No planet, therefore, is without living beings, as less intelligent materialistic men think. Text 32. Thus, seeing the disturbance of the general populace and the imminent destruction of the planets, Arjuna at once retracted both Brahmastra weapons as Lord Sri Krishna desired. Purport. The theory that the modern atomic bomb explosions can annihilate the world is childish imagination. First of all, the atomic energy is not powerful enough to destroy the world. And secondly, ultimately, it all rests on the supreme will of the Supreme Lord. Without his will or sanction, nothing can be built up or destroyed. It is foolish to think that natural laws are ultimately powerful. Material nature's laws works under the direction of the Lord, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. The Lord says there that natural laws work under his supervision. The world can be destroyed only by the will of the Lord and not by the whims of tiny politicians. Lord Sri Krishna desired that the weapons released by both Droni and Arjuna be withdrawn, and it was carried out by Arjuna at once. Similarly, there are many agents of the all-powerful Lord, and by his will only can one execute what he desires. Text 33. Arjuna, his eyes blazing in anger, like two red balls of copper, dexterously arrested the son of Gautami and bound him with ropes like an animal. Purport. Ashwatthama's mother, Kripi, was born in the family of Gautama. The significant point in this shloka is that Ashwatthama was caught and bound up with ropes like an animal. According to Sridhar Swami, Arjuna was obliged to catch this son of a Brahmana like an animal as part of his duty, dharma. This suggestion by Sridhar Swami is also confirmed in the later statement of Sri Krishna. Ashwatthama was a bona fide son of Dronacharya and Kripi, but because he had degraded himself to a lower status of life, it was proper to treat him as an animal and not as a Brahmana. Text 34. After binding Ashwatthama, Arjuna wanted to take him to the military camp. The personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, looking on with his lotus eyes, spoke to Arjuna in an angry mood. Purport. Both Arjuna and Lord Sri Krishna are described here in an angry mood. But Arjuna's eyes were like balls of red copper, whereas the eyes of the Lord were like lotuses. This means that the angry mood of Arjuna and that of the Lord are not on the same level. The Lord is transcendence, and thus he is absolute in any stage. His anger is not like the anger of a conditioned living being within the modes of qualitative material nature. Because he is absolute, both his anger and pleasure are the same. His anger is not exhibited in the three modes of material nature. It is only a sign of his bent of mind towards the cause of his devotee, because that is his transcendental nature. Therefore, even if he is angry, the object of anger is blessed. He is unchanged in all circumstances. Text 35. Lord Sri Krishna said, "O Arjuna, you should show mercy by releasing this relative of a Brahmana, Brahmabandhu." Oh, I'm sorry, I misread that. Lord Sri Krishna said, "O Arjuna, you should not show mercy by releasing this relative of a Brahmana, Brahmabandhu, for he has killed innocent boys in their sleep." Purport. The word Brahmabandhu is significant. A person who happens to take birth in the family of a Brahmana, but is not qualified to be called a Brahmana, is addressed as the relative of a Brahmana, and not as a Brahmana. The son of a high court judge is not virtually a high court judge, but there is no harm in addressing the high court judge's son as a relative of the honorable justice. Therefore, as by birth only does one not become a high court judge. Therefore, as by birth only one does not become a high court judge, so also one does not become a Brahmana simply by birthright, but by acquiring the necessary qualifications of a Brahmana. As the high court judgeship is a post for the qualified man, so also the post of a Brahmana is attainable by qualification only. The Shastra enjoins that if good qualifications are seen in a person born in a family other than that of a Brahmana, the qualified man has to be accepted as a Brahmana. And similarly, if a person born in a family of a Brahmana is void of Brahminical qualification, then he must be treated as a non-Brahmana, or in better terms, a relative of a Brahmana. Lord Sri Krishna, the supreme authority of all religious principles, the Vedas, has personally pointed out these differences, and he is about to explain the reason for this in the following shlokas. Text 36. A person who knows the principles of religion does not kill an enemy who is careless, intoxicated, insane, asleep, afraid, or devoid of his chariot. Nor does he kill a boy, a woman, a foolish creature, or a surrendered soul. Purport. An enemy who does not resist is never killed by a warrior who knows the principles of religion. Formerly, battles were fought on the principles of religion, and not for the sake of sense gratification. If the enemy happened to be intoxicated, asleep, etc., as above mentioned, he was never to be killed. These are some of the codes of religious war. Formerly, war was never declared by the whims of selfish political leaders. It was carried out on religious principles free from all vices. Violence carried out on religious principles is far superior to so-called nonviolence. Text 37. A cruel and wretched person who maintains his existence at the cost of others' lives deserves to be killed for his own well-being. Otherwise, he will go down by his own actions. Purport. A life for a life is just punishment for a person who cruelly and shamelessly lives at the cost of another's life. Political morality is to punish a person by a death sentence in order to save a cruel person from going to hell. That a murderer is condemned to a death sentence by the state is good for the culprit, because in his next life he will not have to suffer for his act of murder. Such a death sentence for the murderer is the lowest possible punishment offered to him. And it is said in the Smriti Shastras that men who were punished by the king on the principle of a life for a life are purified of all their sins, so much so that they may be eligible for being promoted to the planets of heaven. According to Manu, the great author of civic codes and religious principles, even the killer of an animal is to be considered a murderer, because animal food is never meant for the civilized man, whose prime duty is to prepare himself for going back to Godhead. He says that in the act of killing an animal, there is a regular conspiracy by the part of sinners, and all of them are liable to be punished as murderers, exactly like a party of conspirators who kill a human being combinedly. He who gives permission, he who kills the animal, he who sells the slaughtered animal, he who cooks the animal, he who administers distribution of the foodstuff, and at last, he who eats such cooked animal food are all murderers, and all of them are liable to be punished by the laws of nature. No one can create a living being despite all advancement of material science, and therefore no one has the right to kill a living being by one's independent whims. For the animal eaters, the scriptures have sanctioned restricted animal sacrifices only, and such sanctions are there just to restrict the opening of slaughterhouses and not to encourage animal killing. The procedure under which animal sacrifice is allowed in the scriptures is good both for the animal sacrificed and the animal eaters. It is good for the animal in the sense that the sacrificed animal is at once promoted to the human form of life after being sacrificed at the altar, and the animal eater is saved from grosser types of sins, eating meats supplied by organized slaughterhouses, which are ghastly places for breeding all kinds of material afflictions to society, country, and the people in general. The material world is a place. The material world is itself a place always full of anxieties, and by encouraging animal slaughter, the whole atmosphere becomes polluted more and more by war, pestilence, famine, and many other unwanted calamities, including forest fires. Text 38. Furthermore, I have personally heard you promise Draupadi that you would bring forth the head of the killer of her sons. This man is an assassin and murderer of your own family members. Not only that, but he has also dissatisfied his master. He is but the burnt remnants of his family. Kill him immediately. Purport. The son of Dronacharya is condemned here as the burnt remnants of his family. The good name of Dronacharya was very much respected. Although he joined the enemy camp, the Pandavas held him always in respect, and Arjuna saluted him before the beginning of the fight. Did you know that story? Before the battle, Arjuna sent an arrow, at the feet of Bhishma, and it landed right at his feet. for asking permission to start. And he sent an arrow to Dronacharya, and it just touched the top of his crown. In this way, and I think, I'm not absolutely positive of this, but I think that they also sent arrows to Arjuna, somehow or other touching him in some way or landing close by to start the battle and give permission. And Yudhishthira, he walked from his chariot through all the armies, unarmed, came to Bhishma and touched his feet and bowed down and begged his permission to start the battle. Purport. Oh. Was I at the purport? Where was I? Remind me. I got lost.
A couple sentences into the purport.
What?
You were at the part where it said,
there was nothing wrong in that way, but the son of Dronacharya degraded himself by committing acts which are never done by the Dvijas, or the twice-born higher castes. Ashwatthama, the son of Dronacharya, committed murder by killing the 5 sleeping sons of Draupadi, by which he dissatisfied his master Duryodhana, who never approved of the heinous act of killing the 5 sleeping sons of the Pandavas. This means that Ashwatthama became an assaulter of Arjuna's own family members, and thus he was liable to be punished by him. In the Shastras, he who attacks without notice, or kills from behind, or sets fire to another's house, or kidnaps one's wife, is condemned to death. Krishna reminded Arjuna of these facts so that he might take notice of them and do the needful. Text 40. Sutta Goswami said, although Krishna, who was examining Arjuna in religion, encouraged Arjuna to kill the son of Dronacharya, Arjuna, a great soul, did not like the idea of killing him. Although Ashwatthama was a heinous murderer of Arjuna's family members. Purport. Arjuna was a great soul, undoubtedly, which is proved here also. He is encouraged herein personally by the Lord to kill the son of Drona, but Arjuna considers that the son of his great teacher should be spared, for he happens to be the son of Dronacharya, even though he is an unworthy son, having done all sorts of heinous acts whimsically for no one's benefit. Lord Sri Krishna encouraged Arjuna outwardly just to test Arjuna's sense of duty. It is not that Arjuna was incomplete in the sense of his duty, nor was Lord Sri Krishna unaware of Arjuna's sense of duty. But Lord Sri Krishna puts many of his pure devotees to the test just to magnify their sense of duty. The gopis were put to such tests as well. The gopis were put to such tests as well. Prahlad Maharaj also was put to such a test. All pure devotees come out successful in the respective tests by the Lord. Text 41. After reaching his own camp, Arjuna, along with his dear friend and charioteer, Sri Krishna, entrusted the murderer unto his dear wife, who was lamenting for her murdered sons. Purport. The transcendental relation of Arjuna with Krishna is of the dearmost friendship. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord himself has claimed Arjuna as his dearmost friend. Every living being is thus related with the Supreme Lord by some sort of affectionate relation, either as a servant, or as friend, or as parent, or as an object of conjugal love. Everyone thus can enjoy the company of the Lord in the spiritual realm if he at all desires and sincerely tries for it by the process of bhakti yoga. text 42. Sri Sutta Goswami says, Draupadi then saw Ashwatthama, who was bound with ropes like an animal and silent for having enacted the most inglorious murder. Due to her female nature, and due to her being naturally good and well-behaved, she showed him due respect as a Brahmana. Purport. Ashwatthama was condemned by the Lord himself, and he was treated by Arjuna just like a culprit, not like the son of a Brahmana or teacher. But when he was brought before Srimati Draupadi, she, although begrieved for the murder of her sons, and though the murderer was present before her, could not withdraw the due respect generally offered to a Brahmana or to the son of a Brahmana. This is due to her mild nature as a woman. Women as a class are like boys, and therefore they have no discriminating power like that of a man. Ashwatthama proved himself to be an unworthy son of Dronacharya or of a Brahmana, and for this reason he was condemned by the greatest authority, Lord Sri Krishna, and yet a mild woman could not withdraw her natural courtesy for a Brahmana. Even to date, in a Hindu family, a woman shows proper respect to the Brahmana caste, however fallen and heinous a Brahman Bandhu may be. But the men have begun to protest against Brahma Bandhus who were born in families of good Brahmanas, but by action are less than Shudras. The specific word used in this shloka is Vama Swabhava, mild and gentle by nature. A good man or woman accepts anything very easily, but a man of average intelligence does not do so. But anyway, we should not give up our reason and discriminatory power just to be gentle. One must have good discriminatory power to judge a thing on its merit. We should not follow the mild nature of a woman and thereby accept that which is not genuine. Ashwatthama may be respected by a good-natured woman, but that does not mean that he is as good as a genuine Brahmana. Text 43. She could not tolerate Ashwatthama's being bound by ropes, and being a devoted lady, she said, release him, for he is a Brahmana, our spiritual master. Purport. As soon as Ashwatthama was brought before Draupadi, she thought it intolerable that a Brahmana should be arrested like a culprit and brought before her in that condition, especially when the Brahmana happened to be a teacher's son. Arjuna arrested Ashwatthama, knowing perfectly well that he was the son of Dronacharya. Krishna also knew him to be so, but both of them condemned the murderer without consideration of his being the son of a Brahmana. According to revealed scriptures, a teacher or spiritual master is liable to be rejected if he proves himself unworthy of the position of a guru or spiritual master. A guru is called also an acharya, or a person who has personally assimilated all the essence of Shastras and has helped his disciples to adopt the ways. Ashwatthama failed to discharge the duties of a Brahmana or teacher, and therefore he was liable to be rejected from the exalted position of a Brahmana. On this consideration, both Lord Sri Krishna and Arjuna were right in condemning Ashwatthama. But to a good lady like Draupadi, the matter was considered not from the angle of Shastric vision, but as a matter of custom. By custom, Ashwatthama was offered the same respect as offered to his father. It was so because generally the people accept the son of a Brahmana as a real Brahmana by sentiment only. Factually, the matter is different. A Brahmana is accepted on the merit of qualification and not on the merit of simply being the son of a Brahmana. In spite of all this, Draupadi desired that Ashwatthama be at once released, and it was all the same a good sentiment for her. This means that a devotee of the Lord can tolerate all sorts of tribulation personally, but still such devotees are never unkind to others, even to the enemy. These are the characteristics of one who is a pure devotee of the Lord. Now, one particular thing that is mentioned by Srila Prabhupada in another place, maybe even, I may be going ahead of myself, but anyway, the fact is that Draupadi didn't want to see the wife and mother of Ashwatthama feel the same that she was feeling. That's the ultimate emotion. Therefore, the rule is that an absolutely pure devotee, what to speak of an eternal associate of Krishna, is even more merciful than he is. Text 44. It was by Dronacharya's mercy that you learned the military art of throwing arrows and the confidential art of controlling weapons. Purport. Dhanurveda, or military science, was taught by Dronacharya with all its confidential secrets of throwing and controlling by Vedic hymns. Gross military science is dependent on military weapons, but finer than that is the art of throwing the arrows saturated with Vedic hymns, which act more effectively than gross material weapons like machine guns or atomic bombs. The control is by Vedic mantras, or the transcendental science of sound. It is said in the Ramayana that Maharaj Dasharatha, the father of Lord Sri Rama, used to control arrows by sound only. He could pierce his target with his arrow only by hearing the sound, without seeing the object. So this is a finer military science than that of the gross military weapons used nowadays. Arjuna was taught all this, and therefore Draupadi wished that Arjuna feel obliged to Acharya Drona for all these benefits. And in the absence of Dronacharya, his son was his representative. That was the opinion of the good lady Draupadi. It may be argued why Dronacharya, a rigid Brahmana, should be a teacher in military science, but the reply is that a Brahmana should become a teacher regardless of what his department of knowledge is. A learned Brahmana should become a teacher, a priest, and a recipient of charity. A bona fide Brahmana is authorized to accept such professions. Text 45. He, Dronacharya, is certainly still existing, being represented by his son. His wife Kripi did not undergo a sati with him because she had a son. Purport. The wife of Dronacharya, Kripi, is the sister of Kripacharya, a devoted wife who is, according to revealed scripture, the better half of her husband, is justified in embracing voluntary death along with her husband if she is without issue. But in the case of the wife of Dronacharya, she did not undergo such a trial because she had a son, the representative of her husband. A widow is a widow only in name if there is a son of her husband existing. So in either case, Ashwatthama was the representative of Dronacharya, and therefore killing Ashwatthama would be like killing Dronacharya. That was the argument of Draupadi against the killing of Ashwatthama. Text 46. O most fortunate one who know the principles of religion, it is not good for you to cause grief to glorious family members who are always respectable and worshipable. Purport. A slight insult for a respectable family is sufficient to invoke grief. Therefore, a cultured man should always be careful in dealing with worshipful family members. Text 47. My Lord, do not make the wife of Dronacharya cry like me. I said it prematurely. It's right there in the verse. My Lord, Do not make the wife of Dronacharya cry like me. I am aggrieved for the death of my sons. She need not cry constantly like me. Purport. Sympathetic good lady as she was, Srimati Draupadi did not want to put the wife of Dronacharya in the same position of childlessness, both from the point of view of motherly feelings and from the respectable position held by the wife of Dronacharya. Text 48. If the kingly administrative order, being unrestricted in sense control, offends the Brahmana order and enrages them, then the fire of that rage burns up the whole body of the royal family and brings grief upon them all. Purport. The Brahmana order of society, or the spiritually advanced caste or community, and the members of such highly elevated families were always held in great esteem by the other subordinate castes, namely the administrative kingly order, the mercantile order, and the laborers. Text 49. Sutta Goswami said, O Brahmanas, King Yudhishthir fully supported the statements of the queen. Now here we go, it's getting complicated. The plot's thickening. Yudhishthir, the king, fully supported the statements of the queen, which were in accordance with the principles of religion and were justified, glorious, full of mercy and equity, and without duplicity. Purport. Maharaj Yudhishthir, who was the son of Dharmaraja or Yamaraja, fully supported the words of Queen Draupadi in asking Arjuna to release Ashwatthama. One should not tolerate the humiliation of a member of a great family. Arjuna and his family were indebted to the family of Dronacharya because of Arjuna's learning the material science from him. If ingratitude were shown to such a benevolent family, it would not be at all justified from the moral standpoint. The wife of Dronacharya, who was the half body of the great soul, must be treated with compassion, and she should not be put into grief because of her son's death. That is compassion. Such statements by Draupadi are without duplicity, because action should be taken with full knowledge. The feeling of equality was there because Draupadi spoke out of her own personal experience. A barren woman cannot understand the grief of a mother. Draupadi was herself a mother, and therefore her calculation of the death of Kripi's grief, upon the depth of Kripi's grief, was quite to the point. And it was glorious because she wanted to show proper respect to a great family. Text 50. Nakula and Sahadeva, the younger brothers of the king, and also Satyaki, Arjuna, the personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, son of Devaki, and the ladies and all others unanimously agreed with the king. Whew. Text 51. Bhima, however, angrily disagreed with them and recommended killing this culprit who had murdered sleeping children for no purpose and for neither his nor his master's interest. Text 52. Chaturabhuja, the four-armed one, or the personality of Godhead, after hearing the words of Bhima, Draupadi, and others, saw the face of his dear friend Arjuna, and he began to speak as if smiling. Purport. Lord Sri Krishna had two arms, and why he is designated as four-armed is explained by Sridhar Swami. Both Bhima and Draupadi had held opposite views about killing Ashwatthama. Bhima wanted him to be killed immediately, to be immediately killed, whereas Draupadi wanted to save him. We can imagine Bhima ready to kill while Draupadi is obstructing him. And in order to prevent both of them, the Lord discovered another 2 arms. Now you can understand what a small, slight, insignificant things are, what goes on between ashram members or husband and wife and all these things. It's nothing compared to what Arjun's going to have to try to figure out, right? Nothing. You put everything into proper perspective through knowledge. Originally, the primeval Lord Sri Krishna displays only 2 arms, but in his Narayana feature he exhibits 4. In his Narayana feature he resides with his devotees in the Vaikuntha planets, while in its original Sri Krishna feature he resides in the Krishna Loka planet, far, far above the Vaikuntha planets in the spiritual sky. Therefore, if Sri Krishna is called Chaturabhuja, there is no contradiction. If need be, he can display hundreds of arms, as he exhibited by his Vishwarupa shown to Arjuna. Therefore, one who can display hundreds and thousands of arms can also manifest 4 whenever needed. So he needs 2 arms to like this. When Arjuna was perplexed about what to do with Ashwatthama, Lord Sri Krishna, the very dear friend of Arjuna, voluntarily took up the matter just to make a solution. And he was smiling also. The personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, said, "A friend of a Brahmana is not to be killed, but if he is an aggressor, he must be killed." All these rulings are in the scriptures, and you should act accordingly. You have to fulfill your promise to your wife, and you must also act to the satisfaction of Bhimasena and me. You think you got a problem? Think you got a decision to make? Purport. Arjuna was perplexed because Ashwatthama was to be killed as well as spared according to different scriptures cited by different persons. As a Brahma Bandhu, or a worthless son of a Brahmana, Ashwatthama was not to be killed, but he was at the same time an aggressor also. And according to the rulings of Manu, an aggressor, even though he be a Brahmana, and what to speak of an unworthy son of a Brahmana, is to be killed. Dronacharya was certainly a Brahmana in the true sense of the term, but because he stood in the battlefield, he was killed. But although Ashwatthama was an aggressor, he stood without any fighting weapons. The ruling is that an aggressor, when he is without weapon or chariot, cannot be killed. All these were certainly perplexities. Besides that, Arjuna had to keep the promise he had made before Draupadi just to pacify her. And he also had to satisfy both Bhima and Krishna, who advised killing him. This dilemma was presented before Arjuna, and the solution was awarded by Krishna. Text 55. Hare Krishna. Sutta Goswami said, just then Arjuna could understand the motive of the Lord. By his equivocal orders, and thus with his sword, he severed both the hair and jewel from the head of Ashwatthama. Purport. Contradicting orders of different persons are impossible to carry out. Therefore, a compromise was selected by Arjuna by his sharp intelligence, and he separated the jewel from the head of Ashwatthama. This was as good as cutting off his head, and yet his life was saved for all practical purposes. Here, Ashwatthama is indicated as twice born. Certainly he was twice born, but he fell down from his position, and therefore he was properly punished. Text 56. He, Ashwatthama, had already lost his bodily luster due to infanticide. And now, moreover, having lost the jewel from his head, he lost even more strength. Thus he was unbound and driven out of the camp. So this is shastric. This is how you deal with a person like this. You take away all his property, you embarrass him in front of everyone, and you send him away in exile forever. Purport. Thus being insulted, the humiliated Ashwatthama was simultaneously killed and not killed by the intelligence of Lord Krishna and Arjuna. Text 57. Cutting the hair from his head, depriving him of his wealth, and driving him from his residence are the prescribed punishments for the relative of a Brahmana. There is no injunction for killing the body. Text 58. Thereafter the sons of Pandu and Draupadi, overwhelmed with grief, performed the proper rituals for the dead bodies of their relatives. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the first canto, 7th chapter of the Srimad-Bhagavatam, entitled The Son of Drona Punished. So, I think we'll stop there, the reading. And boy, there was lots of material here for a discussion. I'm sure everyone has so many things they're thinking about this pastime. So inconceivable. Just to make it even more difficult for you to ask a question or make a reflection, Ashwatthama in the future would become Vyasadeva in a future Kali Yuga. After he had undergone the penance and had to live out of human society completely, after having been humiliated and having to think about all these things, and be purified by that, he was given the position of Vyasadeva later on. I'm not sure which day of Brahma it was, but it's one of the days of Brahma. Because the soul is not the body. The soul is unchangeable. Okay, your turn. Hare Krishna. Yes. Nandasuno.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Gurudev.
Don't thank me. Thanks to Srimad-Bhagavatam. I'm just a mouthpiece.
Jai. I was thinking when we were hearing about the exalted qualities of Mother Draupadi, that we heard that Krishna was saying, Arjuna, you should kill him. And then Mother Draupadi said, because of compassion, she was feeling like how exalted she was feeling. She didn't want the mother and the wife of Ashwatthama to feel what she was feeling. She wasn't feeling any vengefulness.
Yeah.
Amazing. But I was also thinking, so Krishna was saying he should be killed, but Mother Draupadi was saying he should be spared. So I was thinking, in this age of Kali Yuga, where everyone here is completely unqualified, and I was thinking, is that the reason why Lord Chaitanya shows compassion to the fallen souls in this age? Because Krishna, because he's Krishna and Srimati Radharani combined, and her compassion is so great that even though everyone is completely unqualified, that she's able to give that.
I'll tell you a story. You ready? This is from the Puranas. Unfortunately, I can't give you the exact chapter in Purana, but I heard it from a reliable source in Mayapur. When Lord Ramachandra was in exile with Sita Devi, they were traveling in the forest, the mountains, and they came upon a huge stack of bones that was like a hill. It was so big. And Lord Ramachandra, what is this? And then he asked of course he knew everything, could have said, but he was playing the part of a human being. So he asked the sages that were living around in that area, what is this? And they said, oh, these are the bones of the sadhus and sages and devotees that were killed by these demoniac persons who lived in that area. And as soon as he said that, Lord Ramachandra drew his arrow, put it onto his bow, and his eyes became red like copper. He said, I will kill them all. And then Sita was standing there and says, you can't do that. On the same principle that we just heard, the feminine nature is nourishing and it's comforting and it's, kind and all those things, compassionate. And then Ramachandra said, well, unfortunately, whatever I say has to come true. It's my nature and my dharma. So I'm afraid it's too late. And then, of course, later on he killed the whole dynasty of Ravana and so many others. So then Sita said, all right, but the next time we come together, I'm to make sure that you don't do this again. So Ramachandra says, okay. So then who do they come back against next? Radha and Krishna. So there's Krishna growing up in Braj, and Radharani's there, and they're lovers. And Krishna is, killing demons left, right, and center. And at one point, Radharani came to him and said, look, you told me that you weren't going to do this. And he said, no, I said I wasn't going to use any weapons. Did you see me use any weapons here? Krishna's Raja Leela pastimes, when he killed the demons, he just does it like a child would play. He splits the Bakasura, with his beaks. And anyway, sticks his hand in the mouth of Keshi and makes it grow hot, and no weapons, just childhood play. And then Radharani says, all right, but the next time we come together, I'm going to come inside you and I'm going to make sure that you don't kill anybody. And therefore Lord Chaitanya couldn't kill anybody. Hare Krishna. Yes, Yadutama.
Go a little bit deeper there. What about when Lord Chaitanya brought out his Sudarshan Chakra, was about to kill Jagai-Manu, he was stopped by Lord Nityananda. That was different compassion from different sides. Lord Nityananda's compassion.
No, Radharani's still there. Inspired him not to. Huh?
To go through with it.
Yeah. And it's Lord Nityananda's mercy. But why did he become angry like that? Why did he become so angry? Because someone had hurt Lord Nityananda. So sometimes if you do something so bad to one of Krishna's expansions or one of his pure devotees, he'll break his own promise. But Radharani was there inside of him. No, you can't. And spoke through Nityananda, who said, look, if you kill these guys, you're going to have to kill everybody because they're all like this in this Kali Yuga. Then Lord Chaitanya. And then because one of them, Madai, recognized that what was going on and how powerful and how merciful these personalities were. So he begged Lord Chaitanya, fell at his feet, and he begged mercy for his brother, who was the one that threw the pot. Maybe it was the other way around, but anyway, it was one or the other. And then Lord Chaitanya, and then Lord Nityananda said, so now you have to save them. So it was kind of the same situation as the situation with Draupadi, Bhima. Anyway, that Puranic story is there. At last. Thank you. Thank you.
Purport in text 34, we were reading about the anger of the Lord and Arjuna, and Prabhupada says the angry mood of Arjuna and that of the Lord are not on the same level. But yet at the same time, Arjuna is not an ordinary conditioned soul. So do we see his anger as part of his pure devotion and pure mood?
Yes and no, because the living beings' emotions and qualities are never equal to the Lord's. They may be equal in quality, but never in quantity. Therefore, Jai, Shri Shri Gauranitai, Jai. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya. Vishnu Prasthaya Pujita Srimati Bhakti Swami. Namaste Saraswati Devi. Gurdabani Pujana. Nirvishesha Shunyapani Pashchati. Just like in the Bhagavad Gita, when Arjuna questioned Krishna's statement that he spoke Bhagavad Gita to the sun god so many millions of years ago. But Arjuna said, but we're contemporaries, we're cousins. How am I supposed to accept that you spoke the Bhagavad Gita so many millions of years ago? How is this possible? And then Krishna said, you were there also. You always are with me wherever I go. But you can't remember, but I can remember. So therefore, on all levels, in all subject matters, even though there's qualitative oneness, there's quantitative difference. So the mercy of the Lord is greater even than the mercy of the devotee, but sometimes the mercy of the devotee seem greater because, and this is described in Bhagavad Gita. In somebody have a Gita? There's lots of them over there. This is chapter 3, verse 28 or 29, I think. Yes, this is the verse. Prakrtir gunasam mudha sajanti gunakarmasu tana kritsna vido mandan kritsna vin navachala. Bewildered by the modes of material nature, the ignorant fully engage themselves in material activities and become attached. But the wise should not unsettle them, although these duties are inferior due to the performer's lack of knowledge. So then in the purport, Prabhupada describes, men who are ignorant cannot appreciate activities in Krishna consciousness, and therefore Lord Krishna advises us not to disturb them and simply waste valuable time. So if we take this instruction, we wouldn't go out on Sankirtan. Therefore, Prabhupada says, but the devotees of the Lord are more kind than the Lord because they understand the purpose of the Lord. Consequently, they undertake all kinds of risks, even to the point of approaching ignorant men to try to engage them in the acts of Krishna consciousness, which are absolutely necessary for the human being. So both things are true. So to understand Krishna consciousness, and especially some of these passages in Shastra, one needs lateral intelligence, lateral thinking. But in the West, we're trained in linear thinking. It's either right or it's wrong. It's true or it's false. It's this way or not that way. But it requires spiritual intelligence to accommodate two statements or two things that appear to be contradictory, but that are true at the same time. Say that again?
Arjuna's manifestation of his emotions in serving the Lord, his anger was like Hanuman.
Yes.
Serving with anger.
Yes. Not only because it was his duty and also out of love, but because he knew the intention of the Lord, just like Prabhupada said in this purport. He knew what the will of the Lord was, and he knew what needed to happen. And he happened to be the only person at the time there who could do that. He was the only one that could jump over that expanse of, and wreak havoc, in Ravana's kingdom, and unsettle everyone, and set the tone for the Lord's next pastime. Something else.
So I find it interesting where it says that due to the infanticide, Ashwatthama had already lost his bodily luster. And then when the jewel was cut off of his hair, he lost even more strength.
Yes.
So I'm thinking, of course it's a very short purport, but maybe there's something from one of the other acharyas about, does that mean that he was, because it mentions in one of the purports there that he was genuinely twice born, but then he lost that. So basically his death was more like a losing of the second birth. Was that the idea there?
He had already lost his second birth.
Yeah.
It wasn't that their action was like a second death. He had already died. By committing that act, he had already died.
Yeah, by the infanticide.
Yeah, it was a question of scriptural knowledge and following scriptural knowledge, which satisfied both.
Is the Brahmastra a weapon that releases a lot of material energy? Because it seemed like Arjuna was not aware that it was released when it was released. And then he started talking about...
No, he was aware.
He was?
Yes, that's why he was offering the prayers. Before he asked Krishna what to do, he offered those prayers because a liberated soul or an eternal associate of Krishna, they don't talk to him before asking prayers. They don't ask anything before offering prayers. So he offered the prayers out of respect, but he knew that's the reason he offered the prayers, because he didn't remember at the end of the prayers he said, "I don't know what this is. What is it? What do I do?"
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That point of offering prayers, is it important to learn prayers at this week and offer? Sometimes we go right into trouble in our spiritual life as far as we do.
Of course.
What we should do?
Of course.
It's important to memorize like these kind of things, or is it important maybe just spontaneous?
Both. Both. The reason we memorize prayers is because those prayers were offered to the Lord by persons who knew exactly how to pray to the Lord. And therefore, when we repeat those prayers, we're acknowledging, first of all, the glories of those devotees, and second of all, we're saying things that are said in a way that please Him. At the same time, each soul has the gift or the ability to offer prayer spontaneously at the same time, and those can also be accepted by the Lord. But in general, a devotee should learn how to offer the prayer before they offer their spontaneous prayers. There should be some guideline there, There should be some idea, You always have to offer praise to Krishna, before you ask something. And the way to do that is scientific, because he's a person. At the same time, when a person is in a helpless condition, Krishna will accept, any prayer, practically, if it's sincere and if it's not out of, self-aggrandizement or something like that, not to hurt another person. Or I think I mentioned that pastime. Maybe it was I don't remember where it was. I've spoken a few times now. I forget. But when Prabhupada was offering prayers to the deities, it looked like he was very intent, and one of his servants was standing close by him and noticed, and after Prabhupada went upstairs and he came into his room and he asked him, I noticed that you were offering these intense prayers. Would you mind if I asked you what the prayer was? And then Prabhupada said, yes, I prayed to Krishna. I was praying to Krishna that I never fall again into Maya. And then the devotee said, but Prabhupada, we all know that you're a pure devotee and you cannot fall into Maya. And Prabhupada said, yes, and now you know why I can't fall into Maya, because I'm always praying to the Lord that I can never fall into Maya. But sometimes when we chant, a nice prayer is, please accept me. Please accept me. Don't keep me away. Sanatana Goswami offers this prayer. Or maybe it's Raghunath. It's either Sanatana or Raghunath. Maybe Raghunath Das Goswami. He says, I'm a criminal and a cheater. But Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is so kind, He's giving me to you. Giving you to me. Sorry. Because Lord Chaitanya gave him a Govardhan Shila. And he was offering this prayer in Govardhan. And he said, just don't consider whether I'm acceptable or not. Just give me shelter and residence at your lotus feet in Govardhan. So therefore we should, hear the prayers of the exalted souls, because they are so deep and so much more capable of saying things in a way that will be more, capable or apt to, the Lord doesn't have to answer your prayer just because you're making a prayer, He can answer it or not. But if you remind Him of His liberated soul, who's so much in love with Him that his love is controlling Krishna, Just like when Narada Muni cursed Nalakumar and Manigriva to take birth as trees after they were so degraded that they didn't cover themselves when he was passing by, they were, bathing naked. He said, no, you're so and they were intoxicated, they were drunk, so they didn't know what they were doing. even though they were the sons of Kuvera, very elevated persons, right? So he said, you can take birth as trees. And then our acharyas say that they fell down at his feet and said, oh please, what will our fathers say? We'll never do this again. It was just our foolishness, and please. And then Narada said, well, like Krishna said, like Lord Ramachandra said, unfortunately whatever I say has to come true because that's just the way it is. But I can amend it. So he amended it, the curse. And he said, you will take birth as trees in the court of Nanda Maharaj in Braja, and Krishna will come and deliver you. So then, when baby Krishna, Jai Sri Sri Radha Govinda ki Jai, Sri Sri Gauritai ki Jai, Sri Manat Baladev, Sri Madhi Subhadra ki Jai, Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. So then when baby Krishna, when Yashoda tied up baby Krishna to the grinding mortar, and he started to pull it, and it got stuck in between those very trees in the court of Nanda Maharaj. Before he pulled them down, he said, and it's in the verses in the Bhagavatam, Narada Muni said, I have to deliver these two, so I have to do it. Okay, I'm going to stop there. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, everyone out in cyberspace, for joining us tonight in this auspicious place with these auspicious devotees and this auspicious subject matter. Hare Krishna. Please share and care. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Srimad-Bhagavatam ki Jai. Arjuna ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki Jai.
His Holiness Kesava Bharati Dasa Goswami Maharaj.
Okay.